can you trust your senses? Have you ever wondered if the world you see, hear, and feel is real? You rely on your senses to understand your surroundings, but what if they are not showing you the truth? What if your perception of reality is merely a constructed illusion carefully orchestrated by your brain? Your brain is not a passive receiver of reality. Instead, it is an active creator, taking fragmented and incomplete sensory information and weaving it into what feels like a continuous and seamless experience. But what if it is filling in the gaps, making educated guesses, and even distorting information to maintain its illusion? We are about to take a deep dive into the world of perception, illusions, and the brain's incredible ability to invent reality. Buckle up, because by the end of this journey, you may never trust your own eyes and ears again. The illusion of sight. Why you see less than you think. The most basic and arguably most important function of the brain is to take in information from the outside world and process it to create an internal representation of reality. We like to think that our vision is like a high-resolution camera, capturing every detail in crisp clarity, but this couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, your eyes only gather tiny fragments of visual information, and your brain fills in the gaps. The fovea, a tiny window into the world. Most of your detailed vision comes from a tiny patch in the back of your eye called the fovea. This small area, roughly the size of a grain of rice, is the only part of your eye capable of seeing rich detail and full color. The rest of your retina captures only low-resolution images that would appear blurry and colorless if you were truly aware of them. If your eyes can only take in a small, detailed snapshot of reality, then how do you see the bigger picture? The roll of saccades, constant motion creates the illusion of a whole world. Your eyes are never truly still. Instead, they are constantly darting around in tiny, rapid movements called saccades, fixating for a fraction of a second before shifting focus. These movements happen 3 times per second, meaning that for much of the time, you are actually blind. The brain solves this problem by doing something remarkable. It takes all the fragmented visual data collected by these tiny, rapid eye movements and stitches them together into a seamless, coherent illusion of continuous sight. Think of it like a panorama on your phone. Each individual frame is captured separately, but your phone's software stitches them into a seamless whole. Your brain is doing the same thing every second of your waking life. The clock illusion, when time stands still. One of the most bizarre ways your brain manipulates reality is known as the stopped clock illusion. Have you ever glanced at a clock and noticed that the second hand seems to freeze in place for a brief moment before ticking forward? This isn't just your imagination, it's your brain playing tricks on you. Here's why. When your eyes jump to a new location like a clock, your brain needs time to process the new visual scene. To prevent you from experiencing a blank moment, your brain fills in the missing time by backdating the image to match the moment your eyes landed on it. If your eyes land just after the second hand has moved, your brain mistakenly extends that moment, making it feel like time has frozen. This subtle distortion of time perception is a reminder that your experience of reality isn't always an accurate reflection of what's happening around you. What if you hear things that aren't there? Vision isn't the only sense your brain manipulates. Your hearing is also filled with gaps and illusions that your brain cleverly disguises. Phonemic restoration. When your brain fills in the gaps, have you ever heard someone say something, only to realize later that you misheard them, but your brain seemed to auto-correct it in real time? That's because your auditory system is doing something called phonemic restoration. Here's a simple experiment. Listen to a sentence with a missing word, or a sound that has been replaced with static or white noise. Despite the gap, your brain still hears the missing word and fills it in automatically. But when you listen to the raw audio carefully, you realize that the word was never actually spoken. Your brain is constantly predicting what it expects to hear and filling in the blanks whether or not those words were actually spoken. How your brain predicts the future. Your brain is more than just a perception machine, it's a prediction engine that constantly tries to guess what will happen next. This ability to predict the future is essential for survival. Imagine crossing the street. Your brain has to predict the movement of cars, estimate their speed, and decide if you have time to cross safely. Every decision you make is informed by these unconscious calculations. One of the best explanations for how this works comes from a mathematical concept called Bayesian inference. Bayesian brain hypothesis. How your brain calculates probability. Named after 18th century mathematician Thomas Bayes, Bayesian inference is a way of updating predictions based on new information. Your brain is constantly using this approach. It makes a prediction based on past experiences and patterns. It gathers new sensory input, like sight and sound. It updates its prediction based on what it just learned. For example, if you hear a rustling sound in the bushes, your brain immediately guesses what it might be. Is it the wind, an animal, a human? Your brain quickly adjusts its expectations based on new sensory input. like recognizing a familiar voice or spotting a squirrel. This constant back-and-forth process of prediction and correction allows you to navigate the world efficiently, without having to process every single piece of information from scratch. Conclusion: the hallucinatory nature of reality. So, what does all this mean? It means that your experience of reality is not reality itself. It's a carefully crafted illusion, pieced together from fragmented sensory input, memories, and predictions. Everything you see, hear, and feel is being filtered, edited, and reconstructed by your brain to create a cohesive and meaningful experience. But this also raises an intriguing question. If our perception is an illusion, how do we know it's real? Could our minds be fabricating entire experiences without us realizing it? And if reality is subjective, does that mean we each live in our own unique version of the world? Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is not what reality is, but what it is to truly experience it. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, and until next time,